Tom Witzguy lives an ordinary life in a quiet suburb of Chicago with his wife Maggie and young son Jake. He works as a technician at a telephone exchange, while his wife is busy with household chores and taking care of the family. They have recently moved to a neighborhood where they are surrounded by neighbors with whom Tom and Maggie are gradually building a rapport. There is nothing unusual in their lives until an event occurs that turns everything upside down. One evening during a gathering with friends and family, sister-in-law Lisa suggests Tom try hypnosis. She claims it's safe and interesting. Tom, though skeptical, agrees. Lisa puts him into a trance state, asking him to relax and focus on her voice. She tells him to open his mind and be more receptive to the world around him. During the hypnosis, she jokingly commands him to become more receptive to things that would normally go unnoticed. The procedure ends, but Tom feels strange. He drifts off to sleep without giving it much thought. The next day, Tom begins to notice changes. His dreams become more vivid and the images more disturbing. They flash scenes he can't explain, flashes of light, silhouettes, voices that sound as if from far away. One day, he wakes up in a cold sweat after hearing a scream that seemed all too real to him. He begins to wonder what is happening to him. At the same time, his son Jake, who has the ability to communicate with someone unseen, begins to behave more mysteriously. Jake talks about a girl he sees, and this alarms Tom as time goes on. Tom's visions become more intense. At work, he loses focus, and at home, he feels anxious. One day, while returning home, Tom suddenly sees before his eyes the image of an unfamiliar girl who seems frightened and asks for help. This vision shocks him so much that he loses his balance. Maggie notices that something is wrong with her husband, but Tom can't explain to her what is going on for fear that she will think he is crazy. At tea night, he sees the girl in his dreams again. This time, she is standing in an abandoned house, looking straight at him. Tom senses that her gaze is pierced with pain and despair. He wakes up with the realization that he has to find out who she is and what happened to her. He starts asking neighbors about the area's past, but everyone responds evasively. This increases his suspicions. One evening, Tom decides to talk to Lisa, hoping she can explain why his life has changed so much since the hypnosis. Lisa says that she has opened his mind, making him more receptive to things that most people don't notice. She suggests that Tom has somehow tapped into a world where the souls of those who have not found peace reside. These words frighten Tom, but he realizes he needs to move on to find answers. Immersed in his visions, Tom begins to research the history of the house where they live. He finds old newspapers and archives that tell of a girl named Samantha going missing years ago. No one ever found her, and the case remains unsolved. Tom realizes that the visions are connected to this tragedy. He shares his thoughts with Maggie, who is hesitant at first, but then, seeing how it torments her husband, decides to help. Tom and Maggie start asking around the neighbors, trying to find out more about Samantha. However, most people either avoid the conversation or say they don't know anything. One of the neighbors, Harry, remembers that Samantha was seen in the company of two young men before she disappeared. Tom decides to investigate further based on this information. He also notices that the neighbors are clearly hiding something, especially an elderly man named Frank who avoids their questions. During this time, the visions become more and more agonizing. One night, Tom sees Samantha being forcibly pushed into a car. He wakes up in a panic, realizing that this is not just a fantasy, but a memory of what happened to her. He begins to believe that Samantha is trying to tell him her story using these images. Jake, meanwhile, talks more and more about the girl he sees. He describes her the way Tom has seen her in his visions. This convinces Tom that his son is somehow connected to the story. Jake says that the girl wants to be found. He also mentions details that he couldn't possibly know, which stuns the parents even more. Tom starts digging in the yard, following clues from his visions. The neighbors look at him with suspicion, and Maggie tries to talk him out of it, but he is adamant. Soon he finds what he was looking for: bones. This confirms his suspicions that Samantha was murdered and her body hidden. The vision of her being murdered torments Tom, and he decides to see the case through. After the discovery, Tom goes to the police, but faced with bureaucracy and mistrust, he decides to act on his own. He revisits the neighbors and learns that one of them, Frank, may have been involved in Samantha's disappearance. Tom confronts Frank, who, panicked, confesses that he saw two young men, his son and a friend, hiding the girl's body after a tragic argument. Frank tries to hide this fact to protect his son. Tom, realizing that the truth has finally been revealed, is relieved but at the same time deeply saddened. The visions disappear and Samantha no longer appears to him. Jake also stops talking about the girl, as if her spirit has found peace. Tom and his family's life gradually returns to normal. However, he is forever changed by this experience, feeling that he now understands the world differently. He has learned to appreciate moments of peace and closeness with his family, realizing how important it is to maintain harmony in life and not be afraid to face the truth. This story stays with him forever, reminding him that the truth will always find a way out, even if it requires supernatural help.